Hey, everybody, and Happy New Year, and welcome to Pod Stallions. I am Brian, and with me to the left is the Captain Peacock to my Mrs. Slocum, Jason. Are you available, Jason?
I am available, and I was going to ask about your cat.
My beloved
your beloved
cat.
feline. The cat.
Talk about beating a joke to death, but it somehow was still funny.
Right.
Like I giggled just now thinking of that joke because my brother-in-law used to do this, really good Mrs. Slocum impersonation.
I think it became that it wasn't so much the jokes were funny anymore. It was the absurdity of getting it into a sentence around to somehow find a way to say that word that people were laughing at. It wasn't that it was, they knew the joke was coming, but it was like, oh my God, you guys twisted yourself into pretzels to get this thing so you could say the word again. That's how ridiculous that show got.
And that opening banter is a perfect segue for what we're going to talk about.
Today's topic.
That is the best of 2022, our retro awards. We just pick the best things from movies and television and anything we've read or listened to. And well, you know the deal. We're going to hand out fake awards.
Yeah. It's not going to be quite as organized as it was last year, but as we all know, award shows are out of control now.
Yeah.
So
and we're both on meth, which has really helped out on our productivity, but maybe not on our cohesiveness
or choices. We shall see.
Choices. What?
So, well, I mean, what we thought was the best of the year. Meth can sometimes.
Oh yeah. And I know you're listening, Jason.
Yes. So what category do you want to start with? What do you want to go with?
Well, I think why don't we start with television, because it's something that I probably did the most this year. I got into some serialized television.
Okay, love it.
And yeah, that would be the one I can speak the most to, I think, this year. All right. Because when we get into other certain subjects, I want to talk about some genres that have disappointed me this year.
All right, hit me with your best shot, your best.
All right. The first thing I would like to mention is something that I ate with a spoon and enjoyed it, and that was both seasons of a show from NECA, because they make everything now. The Icons on Earth series. They did one season about Star Wars, which I honestly thought I do not want to watch a show about Star Wars. I am Star Wars'd out. Riveting. And then the second season was about the making of The Simpsons, something that I knew very little about, and again, enjoyed every single episode. I couldn't wait for a new one. They're both on Vice, and they're just really well done. They're really well done. And I loved hearing, for the Star Wars one, I loved hearing Marsha Lucas's story, which I'd never heard in this detail, because I think it's a bit like a Jerry and Sylvia Anderson thing where they are not on good terms, and history is written by the victors. And whether or not, I take it with a grain of salt, some of it, but I do kind of think that she was probably a really valuable asset to his team, and a huge loss when they broke up.
Yeah. So she guided a lot of stuff that most folks don't know about, for sure. Yeah. Did they also do the show about like the Chris Farley, the true story that's on Vice?
The dark side of comedy. I don't know if they did it. I did watch all of those. Those are just unpleasant.
Just like I think I watched some of the Farley one just to see how absurd it got with the reenactments and the fucking interviews and stuff. And I just went, I can't do this anymore. I can't watch it.
I watched all of them, but I think the one that stuck in my mind is the Andrew Dice Clay one. I really didn't think that was really well done. I'm not going to defend Andrew Dice Clay's artistry. I've always thought Andrew Dice Clay kind of sold himself short. He was actually a talented comedian, and then he became this character, and the character was kind of meh. But, it was huge for a while, and then the public's, it became old.
Yeah.
And it's never going to come back. I don't even think he would believe that. And he's moved on to other things, and he's shown some stuff, but the tone of that one was a little too much like, and the bad man went away forever. And it's sort of like, yeah, the public wouldn't buy that anymore. Like that. I felt that it was kind of pushing it like a little too hard, that this was something. The fad died real quick.
Yeah. It's well, I don't know how much reenacting was in that, but it was the reenactment stuff that I was just like, this is taking to a new level of like,
it takes me out of the moment too.
Coming off the elevator, and Chris Farley and everybody, like you don't see their faces, but you see kind of silhouettes, and you see these, I just can't.
It's also just a massive bummer. Like I know, and I watched all of them, and then like especially the comics that are still living.
Yeah.
Kind of like this feels like their obituary.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, really, really dark and kind of scandalous, but it's like, okay.
There's also a wrestling show called Tales from the Territories. I just like, I'm not a wrestler. I do not like wrestling, but I do kind of love these ridiculous stories that they tell from the road. It reminds me a lot of that wonderful series, Tales from the Tour Bus by Mike Judge.
Oh, that show's brilliant.
Oh, like I could, if that was, I wish there was 10 seasons of that. It's so good, but it's so brilliant. Weird and obscure that you're not going to get 10 seasons of it.
Yeah, that's a brilliant show.
Oh yeah, and so I do kind of enjoy the spectacle of that, because like I watched every episode of the country and western season of that Mike Judge show, and I do not care for country and western music, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah, great stories, and the animation just kills it. It's so much.
We need more shows like that. What was one of yours this year?
Well, oddly enough, I mean, I watched a lot of stuff, but when I think back to something like season 2 of The White Lotus, because like the first season of White Lotus I thought was good. The second season I thought was really good, and it took me a while.
I heard that.
But that's not, when I think about what we do, it's a little more, I try to lean a little more genre. So things like that kind of stood out. A few other, some things that just kind of, they started strong and then just kind of fizzled, or you realize, you're 3 episodes into this thing and you're going, nothing is happening. Like, is this going to just come to an O. Henry ending in episode 10? And I got to go through all this bullshit to get there, or whatever. But
you just want to watch the first 27 episodes.
Yeah, exactly. The first 6 seasons. But the show that stood out for me, that was the best that I watched, and that got better with every episode, was Andor on Disney Plus. And
you like that?
Oh my God. It was, well, first off, it was show run by Tony Gilroy, who he wrote one of the Bourne films. He did probably most famous for Michael Clayton, the George Clooney movie, which he wrote and directed, which I happen to love.
That's a fave of yours. I remember you mentioning that. Yeah,
great movie. And he's the guy that came in at the 11th hour to fix or save Rogue One when it was in trouble. And so again, it's one of these things where you go, well, is this a story that you really want? Is this a character you care about? Well, no. But if you tell a good story, and it's kind of like, I'm trying to make equate it to something where it's like, it's a DC thing, and it's got these 2 characters in, but it doesn't ever mention the Batcave, or it's got this and it doesn't. So this is Star Wars, but there's a stormtrooper, and there's a spaceship. But for the most part, it's grounded, and it's a story about this rebellion growing, and this one character that goes from being reckless and looking out for himself and a thief and so on, to what happens to him and how this rebellion kind of starts to build. And the beauty of it, without giving anything away, I think the 12 episodes, because they're doing another 12 next season, is throughout the season there are arcs. So it's like the first 3 episodes is almost like a movie in itself, and then the next 3 episodes, climax is in the episode 6, and then the next 3 or 4, whatever, there's the next chunk of story that is hinging on this event that happens in the 4th of that chunk of episodes, leading up to the ending, the climax in the 12th episode. And it just built and built and built. And It's got some of the best acting and best writing and best design of anything that's ever had the words Star Wars attached to it, for my money. And you get a lot of people that didn't like it because it didn't talk about the Force, or it didn't have lightsabers, or there weren't droids arguing, or whatever. It was a very different kind of show. Like, in other words, you could have called it, Space Hoppers or something, and had nothing to do with Star Wars. It still would have been a great show.
I've heard that both ways. I've heard that said, like, yeah, it didn't even need to have Star Wars on it, or didn't even need to have Star Wars on it. So I haven't seen 1 second of it. My major apprehension was, one, that I'm not like a huge Star Wars guy. I liked The Mandalorian. I didn't watch Kenobi because I don't think my brain can't handle that. And I didn't watch much of the Book of Boba Fett because it just didn't interest me. And Andor was like this thing that I didn't really like Rogue One. So I was like, I could care less about this guy. I don't even know his name. And then my son kept saying, the believer in the household, kept saying, no, it's really good. And now I've heard that enough that I'm going to probably check it out, just because they're saying, well, it's just a really good sci-fi show. And it's like, well, I could use a good sci-fi show. I don't need Jedis.
It's got great writing. I mean, there's a couple of scenes in particular that are like a couple of monologues that are just fantastic, you're just like, well, this is just a great drama. Like, this is just, I mean, we're getting to how this rebellion builds and how we get to the first film. But it's dark too. Like, it's not a pleasant show. There's nothing cute in it. There's no wacky little sidekicks and things. It is an espionage, dark underbelly. And you can certainly see the elements, certainly in Mandalorian and now in this. And I don't know how much was taken into Andor, but, for 10 years, Lucasfilm developed that series called Star Wars Underworld, that was going to be produced by Rick McCallum, and they wrote 100 episodes of the show, and all these writers were living on Skywalker Ranch, writing these shows and coming up with directors, and it was they kept trying to get it done, and it never happened. But it was all supposed to be about not the main characters in that universe, but these dark corners where things happened. And you can see a lot of elements of that must have been put into something like Mandalorian, and certainly you can see some of it in, because sometimes, like, when you get to Coruscant, you're way down in the belly of the planet where nobody is, where some of these dealings are taking place, and so on. And it's just a great show, fantastic cast, everybody in it is great, and it just kept getting better. So I can't recommend it enough. And for me, with those shows, with the Marvel ones, with the Star Wars ones, I'll watch it all. I will watch it all. I will give it all a chance. And not all of them are going to have the same mileage. But I'm willing to watch them. I mean, even if they're, mediocre, I just don't like, I got nothing against She-Hulk, but, and I don't know the comic very well. But I watched the whole thing. It did nothing for me. I didn't think it was like terrible, but I still went, okay, well, we're living in a world where we're getting Marvel shows and, Star Wars shows. Like,
that was a real head scratcher to me, because I have stuck my head in a She-Hulk comic before, and it was wisecracky and jokey and seemed really kind of well received. This show comes on, and I just remember reading comments like, I don't want to talk about feelings. I just want her to punch things. Like, it's called She-Hulk, and I loved there was some stuff she said in there where, controlling anger and that sort of thing when she's talking to Bruce. And I was kind of like, there was a woman's perspective to it, but it didn't feel, to me anyways.
It never hit you over that. My thing is, it felt schizophrenic to me. Like, 1 minute you've got a speech like that, and the next minute people are twerking in an office.
Yeah, it had a silly factor that actually,
after
seeing the Eternals, or much of the Eternals,
yeah,
I was okay with Marvel making fun of Kevin Feige and having I was like, yeah, I'm on board for this. And you know what? They don't all have to be comic books. We're not all classics. Sometimes you just read one and go, that was okay.
Yeah.
And you don't, your memory only remembers, these amazing story arcs, but there's lots of filler in between, and there's nothing wrong with it. And
I would rather live in a world where they make more She-Hulk shows than not. Would I prefer a different character or a different thing? Yeah, I mean, I watched Ms. Marvel too, and I was like, well, that was fine. It's not my thing, but it was fine. I mean, this, the negativity. I got to get away from all of it. Like, I can't deal with these people that just everything is wrong and everything is being destroyed and everything is on fire, and it's just no. Some things are better than others, and some people's mileage varies on what they want to watch. So I'll watch it all if they give it to us. And the other thing, just to add, because we're in the same category here. Speaking of what you said about, because you mentioned a couple of shows that you liked, the ILM documentary on Disney Plus, I thought was fantastic.
Oh.
Having seen, however many hundreds of hours of documentary things over the years from Star Wars and ILM and stuff, especially the first 3 episodes, there was footage in there that I've never seen, and they talked to everyone. I mean, everybody that's still alive that they could sit down for an interview to talk about what these lunatics were doing in Van Nuys in this tiny little warehouse to do what they did. But it doesn't just, it takes you, to other properties, then it gets to Raiders, then it gets to Poltergeist, then it gets to, these other, Star Trek 2 and the CGI in there. And it actually gave me a little bit better appreciation for Lucas. I've always appreciated him, of course, but I think as the years go on, you realize just how many other fingers were in those pies to streamline them to get what we got much of the time, whether it's Star Wars or Empire and different things. But boy, throughout the whole thing, he truly is this guy that sees around the corner of what possibilities are. Even when someone says, well, no, we just, George, there's no way to do that. There's just no way to get that shot that you're thinking. Well, just think about it for a couple of days. Take a couple of days and think about it. Maybe you could try, 2 days later, they find a way, or 10 years, 15 years later, they find a way and CGI is born or whatever. It was an interesting, showcase for his finding the right people and seeing around the corner to get things made and get things. And the footage was great. I mean, it's really a particular point in time that everything ends up hinging on for the rest of history, movie history, with effects and stuff.
Well, most definitely, yeah.
Really well done.
My next one, the next 2 I want to mention are sentences that I'm really not sure I believe I would say. Okay. But and just, this is growing as a human being. So my next thing is, I enjoyed a project with Kunal Nanjiani in it.
Oh, that is shocking.
Yeah, that is shocking. I know. And it was about Chippendales dancers.
Ah, yeah.
I watched all with the wife, of course. But I was the one who said, let's watch the Chippendales show. Mm-hmm. Welcome to Chippendales, which, okay, I'm not into Chippendales, but this story is so freaking good. And there's a great documentary on Prime about it that I can't remember its name, but I recommend watching that first, because that documentary is so good at burying the lead. And then when it all comes out, and there's murder in this.
Yeah.
And
I'm kind of familiar with the story.
I'm not. I was a complete babe in the woods, which is the best way to go into some of these things.
Yeah.
And I remember when I was with that documentary was so good. I was like, at midnight, I was still watching it. I should have gone to bed, and I could hear my daughter stirring around, and I'm like, I really don't want to answer this question. What are you watching? Because she does that a lot, and it's like, I don't want to explain myself why.
Yeah, it's a long story.
It's a long story, and it's not as interesting as you think. So but I would highly recommend that show. Nanjali is playing somebody who barely has any personality, and he pulls it off. Yeah, and he's the guy's never made me laugh, but he's not a bad dramatic actor. And
that's what's kept me away from that. And I know how that sounds. It's making it sound like this is I hate him more than anybody. No, of course not. But I have done my time. I have done my time with his Twilight Zone episode, with the HBO series, with the movie he wrote with his wife or whatever, and I've done it, man. I don't think I can do it's Eternals. Like I cannot do 8 episodes of that. It's kind of like some people. I just it's like who's the guy on It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia? Like, I don't know, we're gonna get there, we're gonna do it. I don't know. Well, you
Charlie Day.
Well, I like him, but at a certain point, I go, I can't take that voice for too long. I just can't. And
it's always yelling in Philadelphia.
Awkwafina is another one that, like, if Awkwafina just spoke in most of her parts, if she just kind of spoke, that's fine. But she always has to turn and I just go, I can't. So, because I started watching Shang-Chi, because I realized I didn't give it much of a chance when I watched it the first time. I thought, okay, maybe I should try again. And I started watching it again. I was like, okay, I just can't. There's too many things.
Oh, I like her. But my wife can't. If something's got Lily Taylor in it, my wife has to turn it off. She did something about Lily Taylor's face. I don't know. And you know who Lily Taylor is, right? The actress.
Yeah, she whispers too quite a bit.
Yeah, but you know what really killed me was one of our favorite bands together is Veruca Salt.
Mm-hmm.
And guess who introduced Louise Post and Nina? It was Lily Taylor.
Oh, really?
So I got to tell my wife that, and she was like, "Oh, come on."
He does. I can kind of understand the Taylor thing, because she's got a whisper. I've realized as the years go on, I've got a real thing with whisper voices. I'm part of one that was on Prime called The Rig. It's a new show about this kind of Scottish or northern, these British people on this oil rig, and then this fog comes in or whatever. And the woman from
I saw that thing. Yeah.
The woman from Schitt's Creek, the woman, I forget her name, but she's the one who runs the front desk at the.
Oh yeah, her, right. She's great.
And who I like just fine. But in this thing, every line is, we need to find out what this is. And if we every single scene and every line is a whisper. And I just want to be on set and go, can we just hold for a sec? Is there a reason that you're whispering all the heaviest lines, or like we're all about to die? Why are you still whispering? And I think Lily Taylor kind of does that. Like everything is, she's a good actress, but everything is kind of in a whisper. And
well, it's a bit like the they parodied that in 30 Rock a lot, the business talk, like Alec Baldwin versus what's his name from Arrested Development, Devin Banks, and he'd be like, yeah, they do that quiet whisper talk. And once that kind of stuff gets parodied, it sort of breaks the fourth wall on it. It becomes silly, right? And you can't look at it the same way. So I understand what you're talking about.
It's distracting. It's distracting to the point of, I go, and Nicole Kidman does it with most of her roles as well. She's always whispering. And I think, why is nobody taking the time to say, what are you doing here? You're just, everyone else is speaking at this volume, and you're just, well, I guess we'll find out tomorrow. It's like, what? Nobody can hear you. Okay, so those are 2 shows that sort of come to mind.
Oh, I got one more.
Okay, go ahead.
And this is one that's even weirder than my last statement. I liked a modern Star Trek program.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, this is me. This is Kirk and Spock and nothing else. Like, I don't care for Star Trek Next Generation. I don't think they're bad, but they're not for me.
I don't even know how you get around to watching a new Star Trek show since you've watched none of the others, really.
Well, first of all, I'm not lost because the concept is pretty simple.
Which one?
This is Strange New Worlds.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I think it's not, I never, I want to just go on record and say that I've watched the Star Trek Continues stuff on YouTube. We can't go backwards. we can't use 60s everything
Tropes.
and writing and that ba-da type music. That's silly and played out for us. So I get people that like want to go back to that, but to me that's Branson, Missouri. And the best example I can think of is a lot of people I know just want Doctor Who to go back to the 80s, and it's like, no, Doctor Who was a perfect way of bringing it back. And Doctor Who was never perfect, but it still kept the essence. And one of the things I like about Strange New Worlds is, one, there is not a ton of this ridiculous arcing, the other part of it is you can watch it, and there is some previously on stuff, but it's easy to catch. But the other thing is that they take time to breathe, let you get to like the characters, not just shove them in your face and go like them, but you can see their interaction. And there's even an episode that's basically like a silly episode. And
I actually watched it. I watched the whole season.
Yeah. Oh, you did. Okay.
Yeah.
And
then I don't, because I watched, I gave Discovery a go. I watched the entire first season.
Tapped out after 3 episodes. I couldn't stand Michael Burnham.
Well, you know what?
Yeah.
Another whisper actor.
Well, if you don't like the main character, what are you doing?
And she's whispering. Everybody else is talking like this, and she's going, "We have to find out where this came from." And you're like, "What the are you doing? Just open your mouth and talk." Like, fucking whispering. But I did it just to do it. We had the license at that point. We went to the premiere and so on and so forth. The second season, when it gets into the Pike stuff, when there's that whatever that crossover, however, I forget how the story went, was this bolt of energy. And see, I would disagree with you to a degree about going backwards. No, we can't go back to what the show, the blueprint of the show, but kind of some of the essence.
Yeah, absolutely.
We certainly can go back to. And so there was an energy to this season and this crew, because this Pike, that's the whole reason that it got the spinoffs, the whole reason why they started making those shorts, because it was so popular and everybody was so into what they were doing. So, and I watched, I think the part of the third season of Discovery. I watched season 1 of Picard. I watched part of season 2 before I just went, I can't believe what the millions that are spent in developing and writing these things, and this is what we're being given. And then I was very excited for Strange New Worlds.
Yeah.
And I by the time I was like 3 episodes in, I went, you know what? Pike is the least interesting thing on this show. He's in it the least. He has the least to do. Number 1 gets a little more screen time. It seems to be a little more purposeful.
Can we just say that is like some of the best casting I've ever seen? Great
casting, both. And I don't find the guy doing Spock, the Gregory Peck's grandkid or whatever, I think he's fine too. He's not trying too hard, whatever.
No, he's doing just enough.
But the problem with it is everyone on all of these shows, Discovery, Picard, Strange New Worlds, everyone's got so many fucking problems. And everybody's crying all the time. Like the doctor's got a thing with the kid, and this other one does. Now she doesn't. Walking down the hall with Spock going, I don't know if I want to be in Starfleet. Oh, well, you know what? Here's an idea. Figure it out. And
because you're in Starfleet.
Because you're in freaking Starfleet. How is this an endearing character? Like, everybody's got problems or angst, or I hate my dad, I hate my mom, I hate my where I came from, or I used to be a Vulcan or whatever. It's like, how about
Gen X Star Trek?
Some slam bang adventure. That was the point of this show, Strange New Worlds.
But I did like the adventure.
To feel like a throwback. That was the point of this. The one that I went, okay, I'm gonna suffer through this and do it just so I can, because there's gems here and there. When they got to that planet and Uhura goes down, and whatever song she was singing at the moment, I don't know if it was Ain't No Mountain High Enough or whatever that song from the 60s that she's singing in the year 5482 or whatever, was the key to unlock.
It is the 22nd century.
Whatever. It was the key to unlocking this ancient mystery that's about to destroy the universe through song. I went, okay, come on, what are we
You,
doing?
sir, have no heart.
And then after that was the let's go to an abandoned station on an ice planet where creatures apparently are living inside humans and bursting out of their chests, etc. So I'm going, is anybody trying to come up?
That's a tonal. Yeah, that's like
They clearly are trying to, like the fantasy one you talked about and the goofy one. They are very much trying to say we're doing variations on a theme from the original series.
yeah.
Like most of them are sort of variations, and it looks great. The costumes are great and everything. But Pike was the coolest thing. The dude playing Anson
I like him.
Anson Williams. What's his name? Anson Mount.
Williams. Yeah, it is
Anson
TV's
Williams
hot seat.
and Donnie Most playing number one were the best things about that second season, because Spock was barely in that second season of Discovery. He was sort of an Easter egg, and they were kind of the prime characters, and they were great. There was such like, oh, here we go, because he's got a joie de vivre to him, Pike. But even Pike is now filled with angst because somebody gave him a heads up on how you're going to die. And so every episode, he's like, there's one where he's washing the dishes, and number one's like, hey, what's on your mind? Oh, nothing. But come on. I know you. Tell me what's going on. Well, I've been thinking about how I'm going to die. It's like, can anybody just go on an adventure? Can we just have an adventure and not have to take Prozac and shit?
You know what? I want you to go back and watch The Cage, because that very first episode, Pike is depressed in Star Trek.
Yes.
I just want you to think about that. That's the very first episode of Star Trek ever, and Pike is depressed.
And it's not like the classic characters, especially Spock and Kirk, were not carrying a weight of something. Kirk, his fear of losing command, Spock, his fear of losing control, and hit the Pon farr and all that stuff. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just that every single character on this show has got some major malfunction that we have to hear about, or somebody has to give them advice and say, it's times like this, I'm about to be eaten by a space creature that came out of someone's chest, that I just want to tell you, maybe you don't know where you belong, but you know how you belong. In these little life lessons, I'm like, fucking hell, can we just have a Star Trek adventures? Very much like the first two Abrams films, which I think the second one is the first half is pretty good because Peter Weller's fantastic.
Oh boy, does that go. Like, I like the movie, but it does not make any sense.
The second one or the first one?
The second one.
The first one is great.
I love the first one. I love the third one. The second one I also like, but it's dumb.
Once you get past, Peter Weller is a great villain, and once you get past him and Khan, which is, it never should have been Khan, like, again, but once you get past when they're in their spacesuits to get across to the ship, which is a great sequence, from that point on, it's out of control. So what I'm saying is, those were adventure films. Kirk was finding his way, Spock was finding his way, but they're asides, they're footnotes to the character. Let's get on with the adventure. And I don't know, I haven't seen enough of Next Generation to know how much was adventure and how much was personal problems or whatever. But having seen, and I'm just saying this, having seen Discovery and Picard, as well as Strange New Worlds, boy, there's just a bucket full of, I never fit in. I don't fit in. I don't know where I belong. I don't know who I am. Well, my dad died, 2 years ago, and blah, blah. It's like, oh my God, the crying. You should see the crying on Discovery and Picard. It's like,
watching the Simpsons episode. If it's a Lisa one, you're going to see tears.
It's out of control. It's like, God, can everybody how'd you guys get into Starfleet? There's a character in the second season of Picard that there's a time travel aspect, and there's a character, this woman that's an astronaut, that's going to be the first, manned, so the term, person space thing to Jupiter or something like that. And she's got PTSD. She's an astronaut who's got PTSD and keeps having these breakdowns in the capsule, the test capsule. Well, tell me a space program on the planet that would take a chance with an astronaut that has PTSD and can't flick the controls. But it's
okay. I will admit that destroyed that Sandra Bullock in Space movie for me a little bit, because it's like, no one, she's all like, I don't want to go to space. They would just replace you.
And her first line in the movie is like, "I really hate space. I never liked this." Well, you could have.
There was 100 other people who wanted to be in space and could have done your job.
And you hate it, so what are you doing out here? At this point on, I have no sympathy for you. I hope the debris knocks you into oblivion.
That's literally like somebody driving in their brand new free Maserati, and they're like, I don't like the color.
Yeah, kind of. It's like, oh god, that scene with the new Uhura walking down the hallway with Spock. That was the best scene because Spock went, "Could I make a recommendation? Why don't you stick it in your butt?" He basically says like, maybe figure out what the hell you want and step aside if you don't want to do this.
Yeah.
Like she does it that she's invited to dinner with the captain for the first time, and she's kind of getting hazed by some of the crew, like, "Oh, you're gonna do it." And they, "What do you think?" "I don't know what I want to do. I don't think I want to be in Starfleet." "Oh, good move. Having dinner with the captain. Nice. Really, really smooth. And by the way, why are they doing dishes? Don't they have a machine that can do this? Why are they using a sponge? Anyway, let's move on because now I've given my review for something that wasn't even my top thing. So are we on the show?
That's okay. Now? That's what we do. Yeah, we can go anywhere you like.
I don't know if I can think of another show, to be honest with you.
That's fine.
That certainly genre related. I don't.
Oh yeah, the other one I want to give top praise to is that Toy Shop on Tour. Those guys killed it this year on YouTube.
I hadn't seen much of him. I saw the Jonathan Ross one. I thought was astounding because he was so. It was just a once in a lifetime thing. Jonathan Ross just from the moment you show up, he never stops talking and takes you through this room with this exquisite merchandise that he has.
Oh yeah.
This knowledge that he has. Like he's just one of those guys you just spin the top and he goes. I
guessed that, by the way. I interviewed those guys a month before they launched that on my channel. And they said, "Oh yeah, we've got a special Christmas treat. It's a celebrity." And I went, "I know who it is." And they didn't want me to reveal it, but off camera, I says, "John Ross." And I'm like, yeah. And
it was great.
It's so good. That guy has so much cool stuff.
The other thing probably would be the newest series of Inside Number 9. I know I say this every year or two when a new series hits, but they had 6 new episodes for series 7, I believe. Mm-hmm. They just dropped a Christmas one. That all of them are up on BritBox. I know I go on about this show a lot, but it is to me the best anthology series since The Twilight Zone. And they, once again, completely different storylines in each one, from slapstick silliness to some heartbreak to the one at Christmas that was chilling, a truly chilling Christmas tale that was great. Mm. They just keep impressing, and I hope they at least get to do 9 series of this show because they're brilliant. So that would be my other show. Movie wise, I liked Nope. I thought Nope was really good.
Oh yeah. I haven't seen that, but my wife ran out and saw it with my daughter and said it was great. She's a huge Jordan Peele fan. I've seen Get Out. I really liked that. But I haven't seen his other films. I should probably check them out because everyone tells me they're great.
Yeah, so. I didn't like Us. I didn't think it was bad, but I just didn't do anything for me. And he's someone that I get excited about. Like, oh, he's doing Twilight Zone, and that was a letdown. And
that had its ups and downs for me.
Yeah.
But it was okay. I mean, the one I remember watching one and just being like, okay, yeah, that's a good stinger, but it's not like, yeah. And that's the problem with writing Twilight Zone.
Yeah, it just I mean, they it kind of went away then. Maybe it's not coming back. But so I'll watch anything he does. But I thought Nope was really good, and mostly in the daylight too, as the story that it told. And so it did a great job. The cinematography was great. The music was great. Interesting story and something that's being told kind of differently that hasn't been told before, and that's tough to do.
Yeah, I didn't watch a lot of modern films this year, mainly because of my work schedule and my love for terribleness. But I'm just trying to go through the list of stuff, and then the stuff I did see didn't wow me. What I wanted to talk about this year is that the superhero genre didn't do anything for me this year at all. I don't know if you feel the same way, but I don't have, every year we've had a superhero film on here, but not this year for me.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what we got. I mean, I eventually saw Black Adam, and that did nothing.
Yeah, Black Adam felt like a movie that I would have cheered for in 2004.
Well, yeah, when there was nothing, I suppose.
Yeah, but
Exciting.
now we've just been exposed to so much stuff, and I just don't think, and this is no offense to The Rock, but I just don't feel like he sold it.
Here's my problem. Here's my
Okay.
problem from the get-go. And let's say that thing was much better than it was. Okay.
Mm.
This is a thing that has been talked about since, I believe, around 2008, maybe even 2006. This has been talked about. At one point, he might do Doc Savage, because that was talked about with Shane Black, because he wanted to do that for years, but the studio wanted to make it modern and he wanted to make it a period thing. But The Rock might have done that. But this Black Adam thing has hovered for so long. And if you look it up and you read its history, your jaw will hit the floor. You won't believe.
Oh yeah, it's always just keeps popping up and going away.
But it's also like the money that's been spent, the money and the time and the writers and the so this movie ends up costing, I don't know, $220 million or something. But you've already spent like 200 million on script and design, and is it going to happen, isn't it going to happen, whatever. It just keeps floating around, and then when it finally happens, this is kind of what you get. And then like a month later, after you've brought Superman back, a month later they go, yeah, you know what, should we change our minds?
Yeah, no,
Yeah, we're just gonna wipe the slate clean and let's just forget this ever happened the last 15 years that we spent on this.
Actually, another going back to TV, the one superhero thing I did like last year was Peacemaker.
Peacemaker was great. I thought that
was
great.
Wonderful. So I guess there was one superhero thing. I guess the best superhero movie I saw that year was, and I'm sure you agree with me, is Morbius, because that needed a movie.
Fuck, I don't. You know what's funny is I tried to watch that twice.
Why?
And because I thought, well, maybe I'm too tired to get. Maybe I should just give it another try.
No, you were right the first time.
The same spot I did when Matt Smith starts running down the street like a jaguar, and I was like, okay, that's it, I'm done.
You know me, right? You know me, that I watched that with a giant grin on my face and like enjoyed it. Like, if you've ever seen the episode of The Simpsons where Nelson goes to see Andy Williams, that is how I felt, because I knew it was bad. I went in going, this is going to be bad, and I was really happy.
Yeah, I don't get the same. I don't get the same thrill as seeing
Schadenfreude is good. I don't mind
like getting through a bad film and going, oh boy, that was bad. When it comes to more of the modern filmmaking, where it's like the money that is spent on these things,
yeah,
and from the get-go, you don't have it on the page. And there's a couple of recent things that I won't even mention right now, because we'll be on this call for the next hour and I'll be ranting. That everybody just starts falling over themselves, for, and you're going, what?
Oh yeah. We had that conversation.
What the hell are you talking about? But I was going to say, speaking of superheroes, unless I'm getting my years wrong, the Batman came out.
Yes, that was
didn't that come out in 2022?
March. Yeah, and
okay. So that's
a successful film, critically well. Yes. And I don't want to put it out there that I hated the film. I didn't. But it isn't like a lot of Reeves pictures. I walk out of them and go, that was good. I don't need to watch it again. And the best thing that came out of that movie for me was my daughter's Paul Dano Riddler rant impersonation. She's nailed that. She thought that was really great. I thought that movie was great, but I think I can epitomize what isn't fun about it by my recent trip to Toys R Us, where I was greeted with a wall of Riddler, Catwoman, and Penguin figures that aren't sold. You can't get Batman because they are the most untoy-like comic book villains. I mean, literally, the Penguin looks like the high school vice principal that used to give me Mr. Sears, who I hated. I just think that we kind of have boiled out the fun of it somehow. And I thought it was a good movie.
Well, see, it's funny you say that because I thought it brought it right up to the line of PG-13 and violence.
Mm-hmm.
It knew that there were going to be kids or younger people watching this. So it wasn't Logan and it wasn't the Snyderverse. You know,
I don't need Batman shooting people and breaking their legs. I'm okay with that. Yeah, I applaud a lot of what they did with it, and I liked, and I if they do a sequel, I will be there. I don't want to put it down.
The whether it's toyetic or not.
Oh no, okay. But I'm just saying it isn't that much fun.
I get what you're saying. Like if you're going, oh, this thing's going to have 1 million play sets. I mean, it had a nice little toy.
I didn't buy a single thing, but what I'm trying to say is, we are watching a movie about a guy who's dressed like a giant bat fighting, and we can have a little fun with it. We all know it's not real. I hope we all know it's not.
But see that again, the counter to that is we had fun with it. We did that. We let Schumacher do it, and we let Snyder do it, and it was goofy as hell with bad jokes and silliness. So I think that it's a reaction to say, maybe it's a little more serious and it's a little darker. And yes, it was probably too dark for some people and a little too reminiscent of Zodiac and Seven and stuff. But we got the goofy. We got Batman goofy for a long time. And no offense to Affleck or some of the things that were there, but those movies make not a lick of sense, and they're more Schumacher.
How dare you, Batman v Superman?
They make not a lick of sense.
And you know what's even worse is when you watch it on like Blu-ray, because I own it on Blu-ray because I became obsessed with it. Like what? Like why? And I bought it on Blu-ray, and I looked at all the deleted scenes, and there's stuff in there that should not have been deleted because it's important to the story. And I just can't understand why they wouldn't just give you that so that you could go, okay, now I get it.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, there's so many other little things that are so, and again, I sat through it all. I did it all.
Yeah.
The fact that a Batman film was made that let Batman be a detective. And
absolutely. Applause. You know what? You're right. Okay. I'm going to give that the best superhero movie of 2022.
But let me just say, like, as an analogy, and I know this isn't your bag, but when everybody was so, they're making sequels to the original characters from Star Wars and the sequel trilogy, and everybody was, and I was like, you know what? All they have to do is be better than the prequels, because they're no longer being measured by the original trilogy. People want that familiarity. You had your humorless prequels that had slapstick humor. When I say humorless, not just
tone deaf slapstick,
and tone deaf performances. But people certainly love them. But all people want to do is, can we get back to what it made it good in the first place? And so I think this is a reaction to what just came before, and it's closer to the animated series. It felt very like the animated series to me, with the club and with the underground and the darkness and everything.
It gave me hope because Batman learned a lesson in it. So, and I think you're going to see a new Batman in the next one. And I look forward to that because there's going to be, one thing I know about Reeves is his characters change and grow and progress. Because I loved his Planet of the Apes films. I think they're great. I don't watch them often, but I still hold them in high regard. I just find them bummers.
I can't take those poor monkeys getting.
Yeah. It's like, and it's like I still like, but were they good? Did I enjoy myself in the theater? 100%.
Yes.
100%.
But
we should probably talk about this Doctor Strange movie.
Oh boy. Yeah.
I think my big problem, like I like Sam Raimi, I love Sam Raimi.
Yeah.
And it was not a terrible film. by any stretch of the imagination. But I found it was that the whole title, the multiverse of madness, I wanted a multiverse of madness. I wanted all kinds of weirdness. And I wasn't expecting Scarlet Witch to be the villain. I hope everyone's seen that.
Spoilers.
Yes. The movie came out when? It came out in April or May. It came out in May. You've seen it. And I think I was let down by expectations. There really wasn't enough. I wanted more multiverse.
I'm so glad you said that.
Yeah.
Because he was first announced, and the title was The Multiverse of Madness. You go, okay, let me get this straight. Multiverse of Madness. Doctor Strange, Sam Raimi, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I want to see those Ditko pages, that acid freak Ditko unit, like craziness. This is the movie to do it. This is going to be him walking through dimensions and talking to 8-headed, amoebas and weird things. And, if ever there was a team up where you go, oh, well, this is a great marriage here. We're going to go into, this is going to feel like going into an old school Doctor Strange comic book. And that's not what it was. That's not remotely what it was. And it was, there were little flourishes and little bits of weirdness.
There's fun stuff in there. There's good Easter eggs. And it's got a good cast. And I just felt it was kind of, on the Marvel scale, middle-ish somewhere, and I felt that it was going to be, I just had this idea that they're going to really throw spaghetti on the wall for this one, and I think they should have. And I appreciated the zombie Doctor Strange at the end. That's a very wonderful Sam Raimi touch, but I really wanted it to be more about the multiverse, and I felt a little let down by that. And to each their own. But you're right. I would say the Batman is probably the best thing I saw this year with superheroes. I think there was another movie with I can't find it on the list here, but Sylvester Stallone was in a superhero movie that I largely found inoffensive and kept thinking if I saw this in the late 90s, I think it was awesome. And, now I just was sort of like, there was a Thor movie too. Oh my God, I'd forgotten the Thor movie.
I was going to say, do we really need to? I will say.
You know what? A wonderful closing act. Just like a Schumacher thing of like, we are going to double down on the funny. And it just didn't. It needed to be trimmed.
That was the problem. Like, I it's really become this thing that has just been like the worst film ever made in the history of Marvel. I don't think so. Like, it's
hell no. Have you seen the Eternals?
Yeah, it's not great. Okay,
yeah,
it's got problems, and the problem is saying, well, we turned it up to 10 on the previous one. Let's turn it up to 12 on this one, and everything is wacky, and that was the problem. But there were good moments in it, and it was, I get why people didn't like it. I didn't hate it. I didn't think it was awful. I didn't think it was nearly as bad as people said, or Doctor Strange. I just think they both were kind of misguided. There were, they should have.
I actually enjoyed parts of the Thor movie, and I didn't pay for it. I didn't see it in the theater, so I was like completely fine. I have not seen Wakanda Forever because I am sad. I really liked Chadwick Boseman, and I just was like, I don't want to see a Black Panther movie. Like, it bugs me. And I meant that, I didn't think Black Panther was a great movie, but I thought it had an amazing, likable cast.
Yeah.
And it overshone the predictable plot, and you liked the people, and I especially there's a few people who have embodied a superhero. You could talk about Christopher Reeve's Superman. Chris Evans, Captain America, works for me on many levels. And I loved Black Panther as a kid, and this guy nailed it.
And that's one that got me away from it was the sadness. Like, I don't want to be sad. It's too soon, and
Yeah, it just bothered me too much. It's like, yeah, no, it's like that season of news radio after Phil Hartman died. I wanted to love it, but I was still in mourning.
Well, it just reminds you, like, for a brief moment, we sort of had all these great characters and all these great actors that were playing. Like, you just kind of went, yeah, I got no problem with any of these people being these characters I've loved since I was a kid.
Yeah.
And then Black Panther, you're like, oh my God, like the scene in Civil War when they come across the tarmac and you go, my God, I'm sitting in a theater looking at a comic book. Like, this is like a double page spread in a comic book. And he was so integral to that whole story.
Yeah, he gave it he grounded it, and I really liked his performance. And yeah, that one bugged me.
Yeah.
Now, I'm just trying to pick out a few things that I found were high points, because things like Halloween Ends and all these sequels, they really didn't do it for me this year.
Me too.
But the one that really kind of surprised me, and I don't care, I really liked the Weird Al movie.
I didn't see it.
Oh,
I have not.
Oh, okay. I don't want to give it away, but
okay.
I should just tell you that, like, Weird Al has no drama in his life. He loved his parents. He's not been. So they decided to, like, throw. It's a parody of, and it should be a parody of all the biopics.
Yeah, the trailer was great. The trailer.
Yeah, and it reminded me a lot of Walk Hard, which is one of my favorite comedies.
Yeah.
Because I've never seen I Walk the Line, but I have seen Walk Hard like 15 times.
Yeah.
It's sort of like when you're a kid and people will go, have you ever seen that movie? And I go, no, but I read the Mad Magazine parody.
I know the parody by heart.
Yeah. So is it like that?
I've heard Mr. Jaws on the radio.
In 2001, which character's name Fart?
I mean, I will see it eventually.
It's not. It's just good laughs, and the best part of it is some of the celebrity cameos.
And he's someone that I have nothing against. I'm sure if I sat with Weird Al and talked to him, we would have a good old time. And he's a sweetheart of a human being. I got nothing against him. I just and never cease to be amazed at the. If you had told me 25, 30 years ago that he was going to be bigger now than he's ever been and sell out stadium stuff, I would have said you're insane. I would have kicked you in the balls.
I don't know. He used to come to Canada and take over Much Music, and it was amazing how entertaining that was.
He's very funny.
Like he's and I was first in line for UHF back in the 80s, and I liked UHF.
Of course you were. You couldn't see fucking Ghostbusters 2, but you found the one theater that was playing UHF.
It was across the street from the
and you were first.
We had 4 theaters downtown when I was a kid, and there was the 3 really nice ones and the Marks.
Was it on a double bill with K9?
Yeah, no, the Marks was just, yeah. Fine, I saw K9. First date movie.
You're the one ticket. You're the one ticket for that movie.
But the Marks always played, like, everybody else would be playing, a big film, and the Marks would have Born in East LA or Fletch Lives or Caddyshack 2. And Brian Hyler was there. I think I went to the Marks more than any other theater. And it's funny, I have a friend who's about 12 years older than me, and he was like, oh, I saw all the Hammer movies at the Marks.
You're like, yeah, but did you see UHF?
I think he might have gone with me.
Did you see Elvira, Mistress of the Dark when it was in the theater?
I took the GO train and then the subway.
Of course you did.
To the Eaton Center, because the only place in Toronto that was playing it that I could get to was the Eaton Center. And yes.
Did you ever see the documentary? Like, that's on you can probably find it on YouTube, but it's a documentary on, like, the DVD of that.
No.
The making of it. It's like 90 minutes long.
Oh,
and
I'm in.
It's really interesting. But my God, they thought that was going to be the number one movie in the country. They thought it was going to make like, 25 million its opening weekend, because she was so big. She was so, popular in what she was doing with the monster movie stuff. And they thought it was going to be a series of films, like a franchise. And they had this premiere in Westwood, and it was just, when you get to that part of the documentary, it's just so sad. Like, they all were so, what is going on? Why is nobody, we had the premiere, but like now it's open on Friday and like nobody's here. There were like 4 people in the theater, and they couldn't figure it out. They could not figure out why it didn't work, because it's a funny movie. It's a fun, silly movie, But
it is. I like the film.
yeah.
I laughed my ass off in the theater when I saw it, and all my friends did too. So I don't know why it wasn't. It definitely should have been. It definitely should have been a bigger hit than it was. It really thudded out, and I honestly feel like it. There's stuff that was a hit in the 80s that shouldn't have been.
Yes.
And
and
that
it hit at just the right time for her. Like, she couldn't have been more in the zeitgeist at that time. And it just thudded. Okay, so that's TV and movies.
Yeah, I guess everything all at once I liked, and
Yeah.
I really enjoyed. I thought about it long and hard. It was that film I just recently watched, because we were going back and forth on it on the phone the other day. Oh crap! Oh, The Menu. I liked it a lot, and I kept thinking this is Vincent Price's greatest film he never made.
It feels like a Vincent. Yeah.
And I've thought about it because a lot of movies I liked but I didn't love, like Glass Onion, which I know you're not fond of, but
that's a whole episode.
Yeah, we'll just put a cork in that bottle. But I really, the more I think about The Menu, the more I was like, yeah, that was really good.
Let me just say again, you know me.
Yeah.
If I'm negative about something going in, if it knocks me out or if I appreciate it, I am not above saying, I thought it was going to be bad. I really enjoyed it. So it's nothing to do with any personal tastes or previous experiences.
I know you to be a fair guy, and I think I feel the same way. I can admit when I'm wrong or when I like something. I just mentioned I like something with I can't say his name now, Nanjali guy. I'm not a fan, but he was good in it, and I will give credit where credit's due. I couldn't wait for the next episode.
And that's it. And it's an endorsement for me to be on the lookout for it. I will probably give it a try because of that.
It's worth a try. I mean, it's there's a lot of man-on-man action in it, but it's worth it. Yeah.
The Menu I thought was good. I wanted it to be, I was hoping for something more, but it was well done, and Ray Fiennes is terrific.
Ray Fiennes is so funny in it, and that's the thing that kills me is it's a deadpan serious movie, but it has laughs.
Yeah, and Nicholas Hoult was brilliant.
Oh my God, he's so funny in it, and he's so obnoxious.
So obnoxious and so goddamn funny.
And I can't believe that's the same guy from Mad Max Fury Road, like the Lovely Day guy.
How about he's the kid in About a Boy?
Come on.
That's Nicholas Hoult, the little kid from About a Boy with Hugh Grant, the Nick Hornby book.
And the guy hasn't really aged, has he?
No, and he can do anything. He does a great American accent. He can do, sexy drama. He can do, Fury Road type things. He's really, I wouldn't have thought that kid would be as versatile as he ended up being. He's terrific. What else?
Toys. Let's talk toys. Because I didn't buy many books this year. I have one book I'll recommend. It's called The Bootleg Bible. And this was gifted to me by the author. Now, when I wrote Rack Toys, and I'll put a link to it because I need to talk to him again. But the fellow's name, because it's not in front of me, is Ben Gore. And when I launched Knockoffs, he wrote me and said, "You want to trade?" And the back portion of Knockoffs was interviews with bootleg toy artists. And when I did it, I realized that like I only gave like 15, 20 pages to those guys. And I thought, man, this could have been a book on its own.
Yeah.
And of course, myopic Brian never realized that another guy published a book just on that. And he wrote me, and he's a very nice guy. And I've been meaning to plug the book, but I actually, in my ADHD world, it was on my desk, and then I lost it, then I found it, then I lost it again. I'm a pain in the ass that way. So, yeah, it is a wonderful book that talks about bootleg toy makers, which is just an endless source of fascination for me, and I highly recommend it.
Your new semi-obsession.
Yes, absolutely. Knockoffs. Well, they've always been my obsession since I was a little kid, but
like the ones that are kind of more deliberate now too, the ones that are
I like that stuff because, well, I like it for the cleverness, the ideas they put in there. And when those guys were sending me stuff for the book, I was giggling. And so I just like, oh God, that's funny. Because they are just like really funny jokes. And, like somebody did the Mr. E.T. from that joke on The Simpsons, I pity the fool that won't phone home. And you look at that and go like, that's so meta, it hurts.
Yeah.
But I'm also laughing at it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I appreciate that. But hey, let's get into the tchotchkes.
No, but here's the thing, Brian. I'm so sorry, buddy. I'm going to make an executive decision. This is.
Here we go. Hey, everybody. We took a quick break, a 5-day break, to record this episode, and that's why I'm wearing a different shirt, and Jason got a haircut.
Thank you for noticing.
But we're going to pick up on our best of 2022 right now, and I believe we were at toys. And I guess, dolls.
How dare you?
No, I like that word.
Are you taking dolls back?
Oh yeah, I man dolls.
Really? You think this is a good idea? You think this is a good idea? We're
Since college, and I stole it from a friend of mine because my friend always used to come into my place in college and say, "I like to look at your man dolls."
Well, I guess it's better than figurines. The classic.
Oh, there's something just kind of like harsh about figurine. Like, don't drink that person's tea; they're going to poison you.
It's just it's
figurines.
The classic, aunt or grandma or someone going, well, why don't you go get one of your figurines? Like, they're not figurines. They're not precious moments. It's an action figure. What's wrong with you?
Why don't you play with your collector plates, Jason?
Your Hummels.
Your Hummels. Yeah, I have a friend who says nerd Hummels all the time. And while accurate, I don't know, it lacks sort of a satirical spark because it's so true.
You wouldn't even call, if someone collected toy soldiers, like vintage toy soldiers, you wouldn't call those figurines. You'd call them
toy soldiers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Figurine is very specific, but I can let man dolls slip.
Man dolls is my favorite because I like a cloth. I like the soft goods, and I don't care how that sounds.
I know you do. I mean, people, it's getting around. Lots of people are saying that about you.
That's the name of the bar I'm going to open. Soft goods.
Soft goods, half off. So tell me what you liked this 2022.
Well, I have to tell you that 2022 saw me spend more money on modern toys than I have before. It's not more than vintage because that's impossible.
Stop the press.
Yeah.
That is a record-breaking thing for you. You are not
it is.
A modern toy guy.
Like, I'm a very of a certain era toy guy. I like Migo style figures. I think that's pretty obvious.
Yes.
And then I can be enticed because I was like a child of the 70s. I like the 3 3/4 a lot. And I got to tell you, this year I did not really differentiate from that much. Those are the two scales I dabbled in. But I bought a lot of stuff this year,
Okay,
and yeah.
hit me.
Okay, well, the first thing I would have to give the best of the year to is Super 7's Godzilla range.
Okay.
I'm looking at a few. I didn't buy them all, but I picked up Godzilla, of course, Mecha Godzilla, because Godzilla versus Mecha Godzilla is my favorite film, and they did Jet Jaguar.
Yeah, they did.
And had to have those three, and then I think they're coming out with like a couple other characters. Like they're going to do Gigan. I gotta have Gigan, but I mean, for $20, I will buy these all day because I never had any Godzilla toys as a kid, and other than a wind-up Sparky figure and that weird bendy that GLJ made, and I loved those. I love Godzilla, and to get a 3 3/4 inch,
Yeah.
Godzilla was just like, yep, that's for me.
And there was nothing as kids. I mean, there was
there was the Mattel Godzilla.
But like, how many kids could get that? But like, there just wasn't for something that was such a perennial on TV that we saw every other weekend, and the cartoon and everything. There was no Godzilla stuff. Like, I couldn't find anything when I was a kid.
Well, I tried very hard to get my folks to buy me the Shogun Godzilla. They said no. And that was it. I don't think I had any other opportunities. And the minute that I figured out that I could, take money and put it into a money order and send it out, so like the 7th or 8th grade, I became addicted to like Godzilla model kits and all that stuff because I was trying to kind of, pick up that stuff I always wanted.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and the Super 7 one, the packaging is great as always.
It's fun. Yeah.
Figures are great. I love the Jet Jaguar, and I got the glow in the dark ones from Comic-Con.
Cool.
Set of 3. They're just so much fun. Then the little mini Mattel one, the redo of the
I liked that very much, and that's above me. But these ones where it's kind of this little universe of 70s style Godzilla figures. Oh yeah, chef's
now. Do you have any interest in what Mezco did? Do you care about?
I bought those and sold them because
those are like $80 a set, weren't they?
Yeah, I bought both of those, and then I think I pre-ordered them like for a year almost. And in between that, the Super 7 stuff came out. And I was just so smitten with the Super 7 stuff that I sold my sets actually recently to a friend of mine. Because it was just like, meh,
But those are like what? 5-inch scale? Kind of like, how big are those?
I never took them out of the box because I had the Super 7 stuff. And like I said, like this scratched the itch for me.
Yeah, they're kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, as long as we're talking about Super 7, which was bound to come up, and I've got a smattering of things that I really enjoyed this year.
A smattering?
Yes, a sprinkling, a smear of seasoning. I picked up just before the end of the year the Super 7 Beastie Boys Intergalactic set figures, the two monsters from the video.
Oh, they did the monsters, right? Because I was hoping for a set of the Beasties from that video.
Yeah, they might be doing it. They did the Sabotage ones, but this is really beautiful. I mean, it's like the robot and the creature, but the packaging is fantastic.
Yeah.
Like I think it's like the robot head on the front, and you slip the set out, and it's, of course, I haven't opened it because it's such a great little scene, but that was pretty cool to see. I didn't know it was happening, and I was like, okay, now you got me for one of your music things. So I picked that up, and I've got the Godzilla ones as well. The little I particularly like Mothra with the little egg.
I didn't actually get Mothra. I'm being very selective. Well, I always think that like Mothra will not be the one that will be hard to find. Like if I'm at a show or I see it on discount because
it was made with lead paint.
It was made without Toho's permission, and they're going to yank it from shelves.
Right, and made with lead paint, so it's like, joke's on you. You don't get one.
Well, lead paint is delicious, but I understand.
What else did you guess?
Well, I have to give it to NECA this year. I didn't buy a ton of NECA product this year, although they made some neat stuff. Like they made the AC/DC guys, and they made an Elton John with piano that I ran to show my neighbor because he's like the world's biggest Elton John fan, and he bought one.
Oh, no kidding.
But I bought the Elvira.
Oh yeah, I almost got that.
And my daughter stole it because she likes Elvira, and I was okay. So I bought another Elvira. What a great figure. I've always, my love for Elvira is deep. And like I've said before, and that figure was like the perfect collectible I've always wanted. It's a Migo scale. It's great detail, but not too much. And yeah, perfect.
It almost it is the kind of thing too where you go, well, there must have been something before, right? Wasn't there something that was made? Maybe
a couple of companies have made it. Figures Toy Co. actually made one in the 90s.
Oh yeah, that's.
And it was, it was good it was very 90s.
Yeah.
I was always hoping they would pick up the license again because they had Svengoolie. And I thought, Elvira would be perfect for their new stuff, but I guess, NECA got there first. And there was also, I think, a figure by Amok Time Toys that was, nice, but it was more in line with like a NECA 7-inch.
Okay.
And I don't cotton to that scale, so I just passed on. But I thought it looked good.
Was this back when the first one you mentioned, were they doing like the Rocky Horror ones? Was it kind of in that line?
No, I think you're thinking of Flat World when they were trying to do that stuff.
Oh no, the ones, not the one you're talking about, Charlie Flat, like the 8-inch.
Yeah, he had the Rocky Horror license. They never came out with them, but they looked really nice.
But there were Rocky Horror figures that were made. They were more like statues. They weren't really like action figures, but it was like the early days of like whatever that company was. I swear they did like some Three Stooges ones, I think, or maybe a Cheech and Chong set that was made.
Oh, I know what you're talking about because I remember those Cheech and Chong figures. I think somewhere I saw just a Cheech or something, and I was like, oh, you can't sell that. Yeah, no, I don't remember. I'm not a big Rocky Horror guy.
No, me. I mean, I dig it, and I love Tim Curry, but I recall like 2 or 3 characters being made, and I thought the Elvira was around that time, but I might be getting it wrong. I almost got that Elvira.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's going to be one of those things they keep making. But when I look at my collection of NECA figures, it's really oddball stuff I keep. Because I buy a lot of it for the show, and then when I'm done with it, sometimes I keep it and sometimes I don't. But I have their Snake Plissken. They're both their Jaws characters, and I have Bob Ross and Richard Simmons and Elvira.
That is an interesting cocktail party.
Richard Simmons is like amazing.
I got the Jaws ones too. I think those are fantastic.
I bought them because I really want to put a set together, and they may someday come to an agreement with Scheider, and
because that prototype is amazing.
Yeah, it look great. But I didn't want to like that to happen 5 years down the line, and then I go, oh yeah, now I got to get Quint, and Quint's like $1,000 in an antique mall somewhere,
Yeah, that Quint. I mean, they're both great. I mean, I've got the scuba one and the regular Hooper and the Quint, but that Quint is just, I mean, it's eerie how good that sculpt is.
It's very good. Yeah. And I'm glad they made it. So what's next on your list?
Well, I would say I really love the fact that Playmates has the Star Trek license again.
Okay, I'm going to go out on a limb and say I don't give a darn.
Well, let me finish.
Okay.
Why I'm so happy about it, because Star Trek is something that's believe it or not, it just, as much as it's in the consciousness, a lot of times the merch just doesn't work. It doesn't move. I mean, we had the license for a while. We made some really, like a Spock bobblehead and things like that, but it just doesn't, I mean, I'm sure you bought like the Migos and then the diamond one that came out of Spock and Kirk or whatever, and because it's been so many different licenses and over the years. But
I stick to I've never been a fan of Playmates. Anything Playmates has done, really. So I just stick to Migo when it comes to Star Trek.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. I bought some of the first movie stuff because I actually thought it was kind of fun. It felt like it was being made for children, and something about that made me happy.
Yeah, sometimes I don't need, it to be a sculpt that looks like the NECA 8-inch Quint. It doesn't have to be Hot Toys or whatever. And
sure.
The fact that Playmates has the scope of the shows and the movies and everything, nothing against Next Generation or any of the other shows, just was never my cup of tea. But the fact they made a Kirk and Spock from Wrath of Khan that are toyetic, they're not like this, because those are also sculpts that are kind of hard to nail, as we've talked about many times. Like a lot of the stuff that Diamond did of Shatner just doesn't quite work. The ones that they made. I did get the two, but that might have been the year before. The Wrath of Khan Migos of Kirk and Spock.
Yeah, I have Kirk, Spock, and Khan. I love those figures.
I don't love the Khan. I stopped at first. I just did something about it just does not work for me. But the two of them, this Kirk and Spock, I think are great figures. Even if the trousers are wrong with the boots, they're wearing slacks over shoes.
Actually.
When they should be wearing their trousers tucked into the boot. So that's kind of a thing that irritates me. But anyway, they made this new line of figures, and they're somewhere in between what the Playmate stuff originally kind of looked like and just stuff that looks more realistic. It still looks like an action figure, toy. Like if these had been out in '82 when Wrath of Khan came out, I would have been all over every character from that movie. So I dig that. But what I really love is the Enterprise.
Oh yeah.
And I think they redid. I think this came out in the original Playmates line from whenever they started doing the classic stuff. But I don't know how different it is. But it's like a $25, $28 toy that is a real. Again, I've got one from Diamond from a few years back that looks like more of like a model kit, and it got all kinds of Kirk phrases and things. It's great. But this one looks like a freaking toy. It looks like a thing that if this is, like I say, if this had been around when we were kids for the show, and it's got like 10 lines from Shatner, and it's got photon torpedoes, and the nacelles light up, and the saucer lights up and stuff, and it looks really good on a stand. So I really like that. And I even got the phaser, the redo of the phaser, because I've got
toy phasers are a must, aren't they?
Oh my God. It's just like, I've got one from a while back that was, I think it was a remote, no, or a Bluetooth, a remote or something, but it was like a high end with a metal handle, and it's gorgeous. The thing comes out, the other phaser comes out, stuff, and it's got all these sounds, and it's heavy, and it vibrates when you pull the trigger, and it's got different things. But this is like a toy. This is like, it looks just like the phaser, but it's a toy, and it's got different settings, and I just kind of love it. So it was fun to see those things in a store on the shelf. I kind of couldn't help myself with it.
No, I get that, and I'm a champion of toys that look like toys.
Yeah.
I think for me and Playmates, the thing that's always bothered me is the proportions on the bodies. It hurts me as a person.
I don't know if you've seen the new ones.
No, actually, I haven't seen them.
Yeah, they're like the Kirk and Spock look more. They're the packaging and a bit of the essence is reminiscent of what they did in the 90s, but the figures themselves are not. They're much sleeker and thinner. Like it's still a mass market toy, but they don't look like shorter and kind of chunkier like the Playmates ones did, and more soft. They're more realistic looking. So there's this weird balance where they've kicked it up to a more, all the sculpts, the ones that I've seen from Discovery and the Picard and the Riker, they're not soft like the Playmates ones way back, and they're not quite Diamond. They're somewhere sort of in between.
So what I'm beginning to think is like, it's sort of like when Kenner takes a classic card back but the figure itself is not a vintage figure, right? Like it's it's got articulation. Like I
Yeah,
buy enough of these clones for the boy that I know that
yeah,
it looks vintage, but it's not.
that's a good, because now what Hasbro's doing is they're putting out the retro line that's like redoing the ones from the 70s or 80s Star Wars, and then they've got the vintage collection, which is a vintage card, but the figure is much more like a Gentle Giant sculpt and loads of articulation and stuff. That's kind of what, because if you pass these in the store, you'd go, oh, they just re-released the Playmates figures, but that's not what they did. They made all new sculpts and all new molds for all the characters. But there's so much cool vintage stuff that they did, like the Where No Man Has Gone Before phaser and the different movie phasers and the different tricorders and so maybe they'll end up putting all that stuff out too. If it works. I don't know if it's even working, but it was just kind of fun to have.
Star Trek seems to be a really dicey game.
It totally is.
Because I've been watching Migo stuff, and I mean, where I live, the Toys R Us, if you want Star Trek figures, you get Migo because there's nothing else in town. And I've watched like 2 or 3 waves of Migo come through my town, and Picard and Q just sit there and sit there and sit there. And I think I was a little surprised at that.
There's something about anything besides the classic characters that just it doesn't. I don't think the show resonates that way. I don't think the fan base is into toys. I don't think most, they some of them are obviously, like my buddy Matt Weinhold, like he's got a bunch of the Migos and the Playmate stuff because he loves Deep Space Nine and stuff like that. But it's just a different thing. I don't know why that is, but I think the classic stuff does the best. So I'm hoping that they keep this going with the classic series, because that's what we wanted to do. Like if we did, Biff Bang Pow at one point had the Big Bang Theory, which was a big convoluted thing, how that sort of happened. But we ended up making the characters, 4-inch figures of the characters in Starfleet uniforms.
I remember that, yeah.
And they were great because there were loads of articulation, accessories and stuff. And we were just begging, please give us the because we already had Star Trek, like, let us do these for Star Trek. Like, no, someone else has I forget who had it at that point. Maybe it was McFarlane or something. I forget. Because McFarlane had it too. McFarlane had Star Trek. This is like 3, 4, 5 years ago. They put out a Picard and a Kirk, and that's it. That's the most they got out when they had the license. They were going to put out a phaser from Discovery that got canceled. So
there was another company too. Like I can't remember. In between all of that, like the Star Trek license, after Playmates gave it up, they had Art Asylum had it.
Yeah.
And then very briefly, there was a company trying to do like this Gene Roddenberry and Shatner on a chair scenario. I don't know if they got it done.
Yeah, I remember that now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who that was though.
It was like there was a lot of Toy Fair. Toy Fair magazine would give all this ballyhoo.
Yeah.
And then half this stuff wouldn't come out.
Yeah. It well, I know that like the Art Asylum, they I think when they got the deal, they wanted classic, and Paramount whatever said, well, you can, but you have to start with Enterprise, which was the Scott Bakula thing. And
everybody loves Enterprise.
Well, they launched with that, and it just didn't go anywhere because the show was kind of new and whatever. They made a phaser, and I'm not sure they even got to the classic show or not before it went to somebody else. And it's been all over the place, It's but even when we had it with the stuff that we did, it just, was it last year? No, it must have been this year. No, maybe it was a few years ago. Whenever the 25th anniversary generation was, we were like telling it, like, let's do something at the Entertainment Earth booth. Let's have some casual. Paramount did nothing. No celebrating. No nothing. No talent down there. Whatever. It's just weird. It's odd. So I hope for me, if they just did a bunch of the original series and the films and made these little figures, these 4.5, 5-inch figures, whatever they are, I'd get them all because they're. Oh, they made a con as well, and the con comes with a little, pincers with the little bowl of worms or the little things that.
Yeah, I don't know. I never know what to do with those accessories.
Yeah, I just if I put it on a shelf, I just I put them in his little hand.
I just always like, here's some extra plastic, throw it out.
I don't understand. We just all agree that can we be done with the extra sets of hands thing?
Oh yeah.
What the fuck?
There's a freaking hand right now on my desk, and I don't know where it goes.
There is a landfill somewhere that's just nothing but extra hands for these figures. Does anybody swap? Don't you pick the two ones you want the most, or that's going to hold the things or whatever, and then what do you do with the rest of them? Do people change these every week?
You want the hand that holds the gun.
Yes.
And yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've had people on my channel like say, "Oh, the back of the card sucks," and it's like, yeah, I'm always looking at that. The thing that faces the wall. Yes.
Yeah, but it's also the with the extra hands thing. I go, if this is a choice between two extra sets of hands or an extra accessory or two,
or $1 off.
Or $1 off, can we just avoid the extra hands? Nobody wants these things. Nobody cares. I mean, sometimes even the extra head, you go, really? Do I really want the screaming version of Corporal?
My Richard Simmons has two heads. He has one face.
Yes, that was I saw that figure in the wild and I found it disturbing. So
it's hilarious. I mean, I get the joke, but
yeah. Poor Richard. Nobody knows.
What's really funny is that there were some people I knew that got all offended by that toy. And really? It was weird. And it's like, no, you're wrong. It's amazing. It's hilarious.
Listen, for whatever you think of Richard Simmons, he was one of a kind. I mean, he's still around, but he was something. And he was that guy for 30 some years.
Yeah, he never really broke character.
He never really broke character. He
has the Tiny Tim of our generation.
Yes, but more fit. He's in better shape. What else did you get? Because I know that's not it for you for toys.
I mean, the other thing that I left this to the end because it's pretty obvious is, Migo did a lot of cool stuff this year. And the thing, though, I have to focus on because I'm hip with the kids is the Planet of the Apes stuff.
Right, because that is the license for the decade.
Yeah. Well, they went, and I mean, I said in one of my YouTube videos recently that I'm content, but then a friend of mine, John, reminded me that we don't have a Paul Williams as Virgil.
First off, you will never be content.
This is not true.
Oh my God! If they make if they make every character, you are going to get them. I don't believe.
Yeah, but I don't sit there and go, what's next?
No, you're not making a list and you're like.
Yeah, no, I'm just going like, I'm grateful for everything you make.
I mean, where's the John Huston one? The
Lawgiver?
Yeah, where's he?
Okay, I'd buy it, but that's just beside the point. They made the mutant from Beneath the Planet of the Apes.
Yes.
This year. And they also, if you ordered it through Topps, you could get the really disgusting one.
Yes.
And they also made Taylor and Brent, and those were just, chef's kiss to me. I've always loved astronauts on Planet of the Apes, and yes, they're very, very exciting for me. Very good year.
Wait a minute. Is one of those mutants Victor Buono?
No, we didn't get that lucky.
Oh, but he is one of them or no?
He is one of them.
He is one of them.
Yeah, he is one of them. As is Natalie Trundy, who was Arthur P. Jacobs' wife, and she was Lisa in the last two films.
Okay, I'm going to go on record on the show as saying, if they make Victor Buono, I will get that figure. If they make
Figures Toy Company made Victor Buono.
They did?
Yeah, they made a King Tut.
Oh, they made a King Tut. I always forget he was King Tut. He could do anything. Let's be honest.
Well,
I mean, he was King Tut.
I think he would,
Miguelito Loveless.
yeah.
Not Loveless. He wasn't Loveless. What was he? Loveless was the dwarf.
Loveless was the little person.
Buono's character.
I forget. I didn't really like Wild Wild West.
Well, you're a fool. Then,
Yeah, sure.
Because if only for Victor Buono. Okay, the King Tut. Yeah, if they make him as the mutant, because that's a better look for him, because he doesn't have the beard. I will get that Victor Buono mutant and put him in a suit.
No, what I need is for Biff Bang Pow to get the Man from Atlantis license.
And who's afraid of Virginia? Oh no, whatever happened to Baby Jane?
Whatever happened to Baby Jane actually might sell in some sort of weird Barbie doll situation. Like I would have to have one.
Man from Atlantis would be the Man from Atlantis, and that would probably
no. The Man from Atlantis and Mr. Schubert,
and that's Victor Buono.
Yeah.
So I could see it, Man from Atlantis, because you'd want him because he did wear clothing sometimes in the show, didn't he?
He wore he wore a little like one of those Adidas suit jackets.
Yeah, so he wasn't always in his little briefs.
Yeah, but he also wore that with his briefs.
Yeah, because you could the different outfits and the briefs. You got 3 figures right there.
Need his shades.
License pays for itself. Boom. Done.
Well, if you spend all the money and make the set a station play set, which would only cost you about $100,000 in molds.
Speaking of play sets, I saw a commercial on Twitter for the Space 1999 like command center thing.
Oh yeah, I have that. Yeah.
Oh my God, what a cool play set for 1975 or whatever it was. It's a play set. It's got electronic lights and sounds. I think it has sounds.
Mm-hmm.
It
has no sounds.
It has no sound, so only lights. Probably ran on 4D batteries.
It's actually just a blinking, like what you would call like a train bulb, or the same thing you get in a pinball machine. One of those blinky lights. Yeah, that's all it is.
But it came with the 3 figures. The commercial was like, playset comes with this, and Dr. So-and-so, him and her. Holy cow, that's a great.
It was the deluxe set that came with the figures. You could also get it Sands.
I see.
I actually own the deluxe set, and all it is just they put a sticker on the box. But
anyway, it was a cool commercial. But it's funny, going back to what you said about Migos and your Toys R Us that you have there, you still have, you lucky pup. I do not see Migos in the wild ever. And there was a time there where I saw the Cheers ones, maybe a Charlie's Angel, and the occasional Picard or whatever, but it was just one little peg at Target, at a couple different Targets, but that was a long time ago. Like, I just don't, when you post those pictures of like, look at none of that, unless you go to like the Trick or Treat, whatever it's called, store in Burbank, that's all toys and Halloween type stuff.
I've heard of that store. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great, but you don't see that. You don't find that in the wild. Okay, so I'll give you one more for toys.
Sure.
Back at Comic-Con, there's a company called, what are they called here? Hiya, Hiya, Hiya Toys.
Okay.
I think they're out of China, Shanghai. I don't know who they are. There's Hiya, but they have done 4-inch figures for Alien, like the Alien films, and all different types of Alien, Xenomorph, the Predator ones. That's kind of how I knew who they were, because I've seen those at comic shops.
Mm-hmm.
But at Comic-Con, they had a 2-pack for Judge Dredd, of these 4-inch figures of Judge Dredd and Judge Death in black and white paint scheme. So it was in a 2-pack, and I got that at Comic-Con. But then they started releasing, a full action figure range, and I think they're doing another different Dredd figure with his bike. So far they've had Judge Dredd, Judge Fire, Judge Death, I think, is a separate figure.
Judge Judy.
Judge Mortis, Judge Judy.
Judge Wapner.
And Judge, what's the other judge?
Reinhold.
The other guy, Judge Giants. But they're really nice. Like even the
That's a very underserviced brand. You don't,
it, totally,
you occasionally one time somebody will get a judge you'll get a Judge Dredd figure from somebody. That's about it.
you had the ones that were done. I want to say it was like a 2000 AD line that was done a long time ago, and I forget who put it out, but there were a few different characters. It was like they made a Strontium Dog one, I think, or the guy from Joe, what's his name from Strontium Dog, that dude. But that was a long time ago. And then there were, of course, the little minifigures that were done when the movie came out.
Didn't Mattel do minifigures of
Mattel did the little minifigures to tie into the film, but they were comic-based little minifigs. And then Mezco did a couple of different Judge Dredds, and they did the bike, which is one of the coolest things they've ever made, that freaking bike that you ended up getting for me, that makes sounds and lights up, and it's got its own figure and stuff. But to have a full 4-inch figure range for these characters is really cool, and they're really, really nicely done. Really cool packaging. So you can find them, and I think they're on, like, you can find them on Amazon and stuff, but they're usually at comic shops. They're like $18 a piece.
Yeah, it's not bad.
But I really liked that someone was doing that. So and the variety, because they didn't really get that far with the other lines, that they're doing all these different judges, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I think that's great.
Yeah. So
I gotta look into that. I mean, I'm not, I'd like Judge Dredd, but I don't need toys of it. But they may do something I enjoy.
Yeah. Yeah, they're good looking figures. Nice color schemes with the green and the blue and the gold. They're nice.
Very nice.
Yeah. Did we? I know we went over movies. Did we talk about Nope? We did, didn't we?
You did, yeah. You
did.
mentioned it. I haven't seen it, so I don't know why I haven't seen it. I think because they went to see it at the theater and I was busy that day. But yeah, no, I've heard good things.
Yeah. Do you want to do any books that you want to talk about? Or
well, we talked about the one book, the bootleg Bible that I got, but hasn't been a big year for reading for me because of all the stuff I'm printing,
Yeah.
So I haven't really looked around and seen what's out there, and I've probably missed some really good stuff. So if listeners want to tell me some cool, pop culture books that came out this year that I might enjoy, I would love to hear those suggestions.
Well, I'm glad you asked.
Oh, all right.
First off, the Quentin Tarantino book, Cinema Speculation.
Oh, yeah. Actually, you just uncorked something I'll talk about later, but is that good? I looked at that.
It's great. It's really great. And, it's completely in his voice. Like,
yeah,
even to the point of you go, oof, maybe the editor could have said, hey, do you really want to put that in that article, that paragraph? But he had this. He has a memory like you and I. Like, I'm reading it, going, what is wrong? There's something wrong with this guy. Like,
I knew that.
He knows every movie he's seen, what age he was when he saw it, who took him. But you get to the end of each these. Sometimes he goes, well, these are the ones I saw this year, and it's like everything. He didn't just see Shaft. He saw everything in the vein of Shaft, just every blaxploitation type thing, or every like, and he was like 8-9 years old going to these things. He at one point he's living with his mother and 2 other women that all I think work at the same place, and he's a 10-year-old kid. And then there's this kind of semi boyfriend of her mom's named Floyd that would come by and say, hey, we'll go on Saturday. I'll take you to the movies. And once or twice he took him to the movies, and then he always stood Quentin up, but he could always talk about movies with this guy. And the laser precision memory he has in this book is really something. Like, it's just like
it needed to get out.
Well, yeah, and it's just like, my God, how do you remember? First off, what were you doing seeing Deliverance at 9 years old with your mom? Yeah. So there's shit like that, and you're going, what the fuck? Really? But then you see this kid develop where he's aware of what's coming out. And so there's a lot of that, but within there, like, each chapter is kind of, this one's about Dirty Harry, this one's about Bullet, this one's about, whatever. And he goes into great detail about the making of the film and how it came about and how long it took McQueen to commit to making it and so on. It's really good. It's really well done. So I just plowed right through it. It was
you just brought up the thought, and I didn't realize it because I got it as an audiobook. But I got the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood book this year. And
that's a trip too. Did you read it?
I listened to it. I was going to I think that was the trip to PowerCon, and that's like a 7-hour drive for me. And I remember actually being kind of upset when it ended.
Did he read it?
No, it's read by Vic Morrow's daughter, Jennifer Jason Leigh.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And she does a great job. And the thing I really loved and appreciated about that was he did it like the way that a lot of things get. You know, you see a movie and then you read the book, and the book has freaking nothing to do with the movie itself. Yeah. And
it's a slightly different story. It's a
slightly different story.
Yeah.
And it's all like it's there. The bones of it are there, but it's like he wrote a very good book that people liked, and a screenwriter went, "Oh, we got to punch this up."
You know what?
We got to have him fight Manson.
That's exactly what you're thinking when you're reading it. You're like,
yeah.
You know, there's one towards the beginning that's the scene that's at Musso and Frank
is different.
At the beginning, he does it in the office. So he's at Pacino's office, Mr. Schwartz's office, instead of being at Musso's, where Cliff is hanging out at the bar.
Yeah.
So it's weird. It's a really interesting. Like, I hope that when he finishes directing, I hope, because he also let slip in some podcast that he's written 8 episodes of a TV series. That he didn't give any details on what it's about or who's looking at it.
But it's about a podiatrist.
But yeah, it's about a guy working at a video store.
Yeah.
But I hope he continues to write, because he's got a great voice with both of those.
Yeah, it was there were points in that book where I was sitting there like, okay, I get it. Cliff is your avatar with the movies. Yeah. You know, but you get over that, and I really enjoyed the insight into, you know, Rick's life, and I didn't want it to end.
He said that he had Brad Pitt read some of the Cliff Booth stuff from the book, but particularly the part that goes into what may or may not have happened with his wife. Let him read that before he fully committed to the film. I mean, Pitt was probably going to do it anyway, but he said that's what got him to, okay, I know who this guy is. Like, I'm in 100%. So he let him read that before it got published, before they made the film. But if you like him and you like his voice, he's something. He's really had an amazing career.
Yeah, no, I'm going to have to check that book out. I do want to read it.
And the other one that's is book of the year in my universe, Garth Marenghi came out of cobwebs.
Oh, you picked this up. Yeah.
Yes. I've got Garth Marenghi's Terror Tome, 3 terrifying new tales from the master of horror. I've got a signed copy from Garth, and it's great. That's all I'll say. It's insane and ridiculous. And if you can't help but read it in his voice as you're reading these stories. It's completely Garth Marenghi's voice.
Every once in a while I revisit Dark Place because it's just something you can't describe.
Yeah.
I mean, it is so, you get into it. It's a vanity project.
It totally.
And they nailed it before, you know, The Office did it, or, you know, just, my God, I think that even predates The Room.
Oh, yeah. And I love the Garth Marenghi's Dark Place.
Yeah.
I love Garth Marenghi. I love the character. Like, if you gave me anything with just the character week to week, he's such. Have you ever seen Man to Man with Dean Lerner?
Oh, yeah, with Dean Lerner. Yeah, I like that show. It's really meta, though. Like, here's the thing that was a blip on the radar. Yeah. And it has a spin-off in its own universe. And you're just like, how does this happen? You know, like, But
But that
good.
first episode of Man to Man, Garth is the guest. He's the first guest, and of course, Matthew Holness plays all 6 of the guests throughout the series, different characters, and it's a weird show, and it's same sense of humor. But that first one when he gets Garth on, and there's one where like I think maybe it's the same episode where they get the other guy or maybe it's a different episode where Holness is playing the actor who played a character like a Spock-like character in this one of the sci-fi shows that Garth wrote. And he comes out and they do a package where like, well, I went to, Collector Con over the weekend and here's what happened. And the footage of him at this Collector Con as this character is beyond cringe. It's so weird. And if anybody's listening if you know Garth Marenghi's Dark Place, find Man to Man with Dean Lerner. I think all the episodes are on YouTube.
I think they are. Yeah.
You will not be sorry.
Just even for Dean Lerner himself, who it's just a fabulous construction.
Built his fortune on porno mag books.
He's just like the worst actor ever. It's so great.
So great. So I recommend the book if you can. I don't know if it's available like on Amazon or anything, but I ordered mine from Waterstones. They had like a limited number of signed.
What does Matthew Holness do? Because you see him pop up so infrequently.
Yeah, I know. I think that too. Like, why aren't you?
Why aren't you like on the same level as all the people that you came up with?
Yeah, I don't know. I know he's done a lot of writing and sort of, punching things up on shows. That
could be. He's a very good writer, and I think the last time I saw him was on that Year of the Rabbit show.
Yes, he shows up, which I just started rewatching. It's funny you say that. Because I was just thinking, I gotta rewatch this again because I love the Elephant Man in there, the John Merrick guy.
Oh my God, that's again another very fringy but insanely fun show.
Yeah, because I finally got to Tinseltown, Toast in Tinseltown.
Yeah,
which I probably should revisit because it just did not grab me. I just went, yeah, some of the magic is kind of. Is this what's happening now where everybody that kind of knows about it wants to be in it and it becomes something different? And I don't know. I'll have to watch it again. But Year of the Rabbit is really something. It's just such a weird, and it moves so fast. Like the jokes are so swift, and Barry I think is hilarious in it. But they're a particular brand of comedy. Those fellas.
Oh yeah.
So those would be my book. I think that might be my pick of books, I think. I might think of another one, but you go ahead. What's the other category? Sex toys? What do we usually do every year?
We don't do sex toys.
Oh, we don't?
No. I'm just trying to think of what we do. We do books. We sometimes do magazines.
Okay.
I don't have anything new. I still buy Shock Cinema every year. Or every time it's out, and that's about it right now for me. Have you picked up any new mags?
I tend to occasionally still get like Empire. I get Mojo, depending on who's on the cover. But with Empire, it's become so thin. It's funny. A while back, Amoeba, you'll go towards the back, and they'll have these boxes of like, concert programs or old magazine stuff, and there was like a dozen old issues of Q magazine, the British music magazine. And some of them I could just point to and go, oh my God, I remember this one. I remember this one. And I grabbed like 6 or 7. They were like $1 a piece. And it's like a mini phone book. These magazines are so
yeah.
And the print is so. I remember when I used to get those when I first found it, and as a teenager and everything, and you just like, my God, I've never seen so much information in one issue of a magazine. And then that's what Empire became. Thick, thing filled with movie information and stuff. And that was the internet. That's how I learned about so many bands and stuff that came before and so on. And now you compare some of these magazines, they're just paper thin. There's like nothing in these British magazines anymore. And I pick up Infinity now and then. I don't pick it up every month. I've had to kind of put the brake on because it's such a great magazine. But I realize that each one there's a good chunk of articles that I go, I don't know if I need 6 pages on Diana Dors. I don't think I don't need to really dig into that article. So I've kind of,
She was really hot.
I see a cover, maybe I see, oh, there's 3 or 4 of them. I better get this. But that's about it. That's about it for magazines.
Yeah. Because I print my own. That's the last thing I want to look at the end of the day is another magazine. So I haven't really picked up a lot, and I just I'm the same with you and Infinity. I still like it, but I pick my battles and look at the content a little more nowadays.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's because I suddenly was going through some stuff, and I found this basket over in the corner. It's like, oh, I remember there's some books in there. I should go through those. And when I lifted one off, I'm like, oh my God, there's 15 issues of Infinity in this basket. And there's, 10 in a thing on the shelf. Like, I'm saving all these Infinity mags. We're all going to die, people. Just remember.
Dude.
Sorry.
I have a house load of catalogs.
Sorry. Didn't mean to bring it up.
My kids will be chucking into a dumpster that they have to pay for.
Sorry. I mean, I was talking to everyone else that's listening, not you. I apologize. I don't know what I was thinking. But yeah, that's some pretty good stuff,
Pretty good. Yeah. Let's end on this. What are you looking forward to this year?
World peace.
Okay. And I guess those jetpacks we've always hoped for.
The jetpacks, I'm hoping. What am I looking for? There was a TV series that I saw previewed that looked really good. Now I can't remember what it is. I am, of course, looking forward to Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, because when that trailer hit, I'm like, okay, finally we get something because of my love of the character. And I think it looks really good and everything. I've loved everything that James Mangold has done. Jez Butterworth is a great writer. So I'm very curious, interested to see what happens. And along with that, Hasbro is putting out new Indiana Jones stuff, which is running the gamut from, I think they recycled a toy whip that came out, back when Crystal Skull came out. They're putting out like a 12-inch talking figure that's mass market, but they're doing, 6-inch Star Wars Black style versions of characters from the movies, which they've never done, really. The Disneyland had the 2 different versions of Indiana Jones that came out at different times, but they haven't really done this. And, I'd probably love to get all of them, but I'll probably have to pick and choose. That's finally happening. So those look kind of cool. And I never got them last year, but I think if I'm reading my emails correctly, the set of Prisoner action figures that were a Kickstarter,
mm-hmm.
Those I believe may be on their way. Or I didn't get all of them. I got some of them. And so I'm very curious to get those. And as far as like movies and TV and stuff, I just it's funny. Sometimes something a trailer just pops and you go, oh yeah, I forgot they were doing.
Totally. Yeah, I really haven't been keeping track.
Yeah. So I don't know offhand. I know. Oh, you know what? Oppenheimer, the Christopher Nolan movie.
Yeah.
That I think is going to be amazing. The cast looks incredible. Like just everyone who's anyone is in this movie, but it's a fascinating story. And I like Murphy a lot. Cillian
Murphy. It's
Cillian
Cillian.
Murphy.
Yeah.
Cillian. So that I'm looking forward to. But that's all I can think of.
Yeah. I got a couple. I like. I loved the first 2 Guardians movies. Third one looks like it's going to make you cry more.
Yeah.
I'm in for that. I really want to see the new Shazam movie because I liked the last one. The Flash. I'm really curious to see the Flash movie. And Cocaine Bear. I would very much like to see that as well.
Cocaine Bear.
Yeah.
I am kind of curious about the Renfield.
I was just going to say that. Nicholas Hoult and Nicolas Cage, right?
Yeah, Holt is wonderful, and Cage, well, I mean, what are you gonna do?
I watched a movie recently where he's in like a evil Chuck E. Cheese.
He
never says one word throughout the whole film.
That's what I heard. It's like he doesn't.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, because I loved Mandy,
Yeah.
and I really liked. Oh, that's another one I'd throw in the pile. Maybe of fun stuff last year was the what was it called?
The Unbearable Weight of Talent or whatever.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. I thought that was great.
I never finished it, but I enjoyed what I was watching. It just got too late.
It was great. And my only complaint would be, and I'm not giving anything away, but there's deleted stuff that was really great, because he talks about the cabinet of Dr. Caligari in the early part of the film. And they did a riff on that with the other Cage, the younger Cage. And it didn't make it into the film, and I wish it had. And then I wanted more from Cage. Like they gave you this delicious thing of the alter ego sort of thing. And I kind of wish they'd gone further, but maybe they'll do another one. I don't know, because I think it really took people by surprise.
I was thinking he was a genius. That he took this script. Like,
yes, yeah,
it's just like being John Malkovich.
Yeah, it was. That's a great story. I forget how it goes, but they kept like, if we write this thing, this is really hinging on him saying yes. Like, if he doesn't do this, who's our substitute? And eventually it got to him, and he got on board. So I'm curious to see what the Renfield thing does for him, because he's, and I watched another one because he does these, these, I don't know where they're being made or how much he's getting paid to do them, but like that Chucky one, there was one where he's like in a wasteland. It's like a Japanese kind of thing, but he's in some futuristic wasteland, and they attach explosives to his testicles that he has to go do this mission and save someone. And it's just, you get about 35 minutes in and you're going, I don't think I can do this. Like, I love you, Nick, but
I am married to a woman who would watch just anything he does, especially science fiction or post-apocalyptic. She just, because she buys what he's selling. It's not like she's in love with him, but
like, did you see Pig?
Did I see what? No, I didn't. I didn't even finish Mandy.
Oh, you didn't finish Mandy?
No, I'm not into that. I don't even know what you'd call that kind of horror, but it's I don't want to get into it. It's just not a thing for me.
Like, he did one called Pig, where he was a former.
I heard, he's like in love with his pig died and he can't get over it or something.
Well, he's like, he's got this truffle pig, but he's used to be a chef or whatever. But he's fantastic in it. Like,
I heard that, yeah.
And then he'll turn around and do like the explosives on his testicles thing, and you're like, what are you doing, man? So I think he can still be surprising and stuff. And I wish, so I'm curious about the Renfield thing to see how that. And speaking of cabinets, I really liked the Guillermo del Toro Cabinet of Curiosities, the horror series. Did we talk about that? We didn't talk about that.
We didn't talk about that.
Yeah, I thought that was really good. I thought some of them were okay, and some were really good, and then there's a few that I thought were fantastic. So I hope that gets to continue.
I haven't checked it out yet, but I will, because my buddy worked on it.
Oh yeah, you should. You definitely should then.
I also, the thing is, like, finding these things sometimes drives you crazy, right? Like,
yeah, that's true.
My friend Rob directed a documentary, or edited a documentary this year called, I better get that right now. It's the Dave Stevens documentary.
Oh, I just watched the trailer the other day. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, it's let me just get the plug out, because if you're a fan of The Rocketeer, Drawn to Perfection, Dave Stevens' Drawn to Perfection, and I would have watched it by now, but I haven't been able to find a reliable source yet, and that is the modern, problem with this stuff.
It is. First off, you have to go, is it streaming somewhere? And so you Google, like, blah, blah movie streaming, find out where it is, or do I rent it? And then sometimes you just can't find it. Like, there's, certain series that you just can't find. And then when it comes to the Apple Plus stuff, like, I don't see any of that because I don't have an Apple TV, and, I've got one of the TV, I think, like a Roku and shit. So yeah, it's getting more and more complicated to find stuff. But
Yeah,
But
and David's documentary, I couldn't even find a place to pay for it. In Search of
here,
Darkness 3.
yeah, I think over here it's like a $6 rental. You can rent it or buy it through Vudu, I think maybe.
Yeah, we don't have that here.
Yeah,
I would love to watch it because
it looked great. Yeah.
I love the first two. So I'm still trying to find that. It's modern problems, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Modern geek problems. That's true.
Yeah, we used to be able to drive to the video store and it would be out, and that would be our big problem.
Can you put me on the list, please? I'd
Yeah,
like to.
could you call me if they returned early?
Also, what are you guys gonna do with that poster when it comes down?
Oh yeah, can I have that standee?
Can I have the Sting Bring on the Night cardboard standee? Are you guys gonna keep that, or what are you gonna do? You throw it out? Can I just put my name and number on the back, and you guys call
You
me?
just reminded me of like every video store in this area would either try to give away or sell the posters. Like for 50 cents.
Yeah.
And I got some doozies out of those boxes.
And sometimes, people like this was a time sometimes where it didn't necessarily mean a new marketing campaign with a new poster that was just for home video. Sometimes they got like leftover movie posters
Yeah.
from
Yeah,
theater
yeah.
to put up to promote whatever it was, and they would give that. I used to have a ton of that stuff, and music stores too, like big promotional posters for whatever album. Like, you guys gonna throw that out when it comes down? Well, it's not gonna come down for like a month or two.
Yeah.
That's cool, but if I can put my name on it, that'd be great. And then you get yeah, Jason, there's a Peter Gabriel poster here for you. So, yeah, those are the good old days. Free posters, and all the ladies loved it.
Yeah. Yeah. I've probably joked about it, but I used to have a little breakfast nook in one of my apartments, and my big poster of Juliana Hatfield.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
See that?
So you know what decade I was talking about.
They look at that and go, "This guy's sensitive, and he likes to party at the same time."
That's right. That's right.
Let's see where this goes. Yeah.
And he's too young to have a breakfast nook.
Sorry, why is he wearing a cardigan? What is going on? Well, there you go. There's a episode and a half.
Yeah. Well, it's basically two different days, two different opinions.
Yeah, it was a cliffhanger. We
Was
left
it?
a cliffhanger, and then we came back for part 2.
Well, if we hadn't have actually tipped our hat,
I wasn't my idea. I could have just got back.
I like to break the fourth wall.
You clearly have an agenda to ruin everyone's dreams by telling the truth.
That's it. That's me. I figured it out.
Well, there you go. That's magic. Let us know what you think. What were your favorite things of the year? What did you like?
What's your highlights? What did we miss? Who knows?
Who's your favorite? Me or Brian? Who would win in a fight?
Let's not do that.
Gorn.
Brian or the Gorn? Well, is the Gorn the same guy who played the Gorn in the 60s? Because I think I could take him.
Yeah, it's the same guy. He's still
okay. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah,
he's still wearing that outfit to shows. I think.
Oh, jeez. He should stop.
Let us know what you think, and we will be back sooner than later. We promise. Life finds a way.
Stay tuned for our special Valentine's Day episode.
Yes, the most romantic sci-fi films ever made.
Or we could do like romantic Doctor Who episodes. Oh, this could be a whole thing.
The doomed romances in horror.
The doomed romance. Yeah, right. All these kids wanted to do was get laid.
The date's gone wrong in horror films this Valentine's Day on Pod Stallions.
Every date goes wrong in a horror movie.
There's well, you know what I'm looking forward to now that we're kind of wrapping up, and you mentioned Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Not to lie. I will watch, and I am excited to see David Tennant play the Doctor again.
Oh, you know what? I wanted to mention that, and we just got sidetracked. Yeah, totally.
That is something to be excited about.
I was not a fan of Chris Chibnall. So to see someone else, and Russell T Davies, I obviously have a lot of respect for him, and I hope he's got a plan. But I'm just looking forward to a refreshening up of the Doctor, and that's the beauty of the whole show. If you don't like an era, you can wait, and then hopefully it'll come back.
I'm hoping for good stories. I want good stories. Like I know Moffat wasn't perfect by all means, but when I go back to the Capaldi stuff that he wrote and the best of the Matt Smith stuff, it's like I want some great stories and just like adventure. And I'm curious to see what Davis does, because I think he may have turned a corner, sort of, not in a good way. You saw the regeneration, I take it, or you've heard about it.
Yeah.
If you'll notice, for the first time in the show's history, the Doctor regenerated, but not in the same outfit.
Yeah, no, well, wait a minute, though. No. The Doctor did regenerate. Patrick Troughton regenerated with his clothes on.
Patrick Troughton regenerated with Hartnell's clothes on.
I thought he woke up in his clothes.
I don't think so. I'm almost 100%. And then
wow, to the library.
I think he was wearing the same threads because they were so confused as to who he is, and like the clothes didn't fit and whatever. But then I know when Pertwee fell out, he's wearing Troughton's stuff.
Oh yeah, no, that one I know. Yeah.
Everybody else. And then he does this, and I'll let everyone look up the reasoning why, but I think it's absolutely preposterous. But that kind of like, come on, you really like just.
I think that might be a ruse.
It could be, and I hope that it is. I really, really hope that it is, because
I honestly, Russell T Davies is very cheeky with the press, and I think when he's got something to hide, he gets cheekier.
It could be,
and he was really smart-mouthed about that, like, oh, maybe I planned it, or maybe it's this way, or and it's just like, okay,
it could
he's got something, like, he's using the excuse that he's saying, and I was like, I don't know if I believe that, because I have a couple of reasons, but I think that's a cover for story points, and I'm okay with that. I don't care either way.
It could, we'll see. I'm just I'm hoping for the best with this show, and just
me too.
And hopefully, I mean, it'd be great. I think we'll probably get some other surprises too that nobody's talking.
And I can do this. Oh, this is gonna feel good. Actually, the first regeneration, when William Hartnell was replaced by Patrick Troughton, he was wearing a new outfit right away.
Well, nobody saw
so it. It's canon, sir.
Thought it didn't exist. It was lost forever.
Well, I can tell you right now, the Russell T Davies didn't check.
Well, you know what? Even the excuse that he gave, even if it's a ruse, it's like a legitimate excuse from him, and that just kind of like, come on, is this where we're going now with everything with the show? And
no, I honestly think that's bull plop, and
we'll see. We'll see. Well, I'll bet you 50 cents that it's not.
It's a bet.
All right.
That's 50 cents American, right?
That's 50 cents American.
Oh, right.
I'm no cheapskate.
I can almost get a Coke.
Well, there you go.
Well, yeah, I just wanted to shout out 2 Blu-rays I got this year so that we can make the world's longest episode.
Go for it.
Synapsis Films released Tombs of the Blind Dead, a absolutely beautiful version. I think I bought the Steelbook. It's a movie I really enjoy, and there's never really been a good version of it, and this is like chef's kiss. And the other one is I just got it recently, and I can't get over how many features and stuff there is on it, and that is The Werewolf versus the Vampire Woman, but with Paul Naschy. I don't know if you're familiar with Paul Naschy, but I'm a huge fan of his work. And there was a really fantastic Blu-ray released by I don't really follow companies, I just follow movies. Oh, it was Vinegar Syndrome.
I was going to say Syndrome. It was Paul Naschy.
Yeah, well, no, Shout does a lot of Paul Naschy stuff too, but really enjoyed it. Really fantastic copy and all these different versions, and They include the really nudie version, which I didn't know existed, and didn't need to see, but something different. Really interesting. Those are the two that I would super applaud this year.
All right.
Yeah.
Excellent. Nothing off the top of my head. I think maybe last year I talked about the Alan Moore film called The Show.
Yeah, I think you did. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So because I just rewatched that recently, but if I didn't mention it, I'm mentioning it again. That it is worth your 90 minutes to look it up to find the movie called The Show, written by Alan Moore. It's great. It's really wonderful. Just a fun, it just feels like an older Alan Moore writing, like how he used to write. And Moon Age Daydream, the David Bowie documentary. I cannot.
Yeah, right. I haven't checked that out yet.
Can't recommend it enough. I'm a little biased, but there you go.
Well, it's okay to be biased. You're a fan.
Yeah.
Well, thanks everybody. Like we said, we hope to hear your input, and we will be back very, very soon.
Thanks, everyone. Happy 23.
All right.
Fantastic.